All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go through this quiz right here. Now, if I have 90 and 25, how do I find the remaining angle? Add them up, divide, and subtract from 180. The answer is 65. Now, let's find x right here. Best way to find x is sine. So I have sine of 25 equals 8 because it's opposite over hypotenuse. X. Okay. So if I cross multiply and solve, I'm going to get x equals 18 point what? 9. Now, that's okay because this is not one of our normal triangles. But if you put, say, 19, that's totally fine in this case because there are no other decimals here. If it's an exact triangle, what kind of answer do you have to give me? Exact. Very good. So either one of those would work. Now, how am I going to find this side over here? We're going to call it Z. Pythagorean theorem would be an option. The problem is what happens if I screwed this number up? This one's going to be screwed up over here. So instead, let's do not cosine. Cosine would be adjacent hypotenuse. And if I screwed it up, I'd still have the same problem, wouldn't I? So let's go tangent of 25, and opposite is 8, and adjacent is Z. If I do this, what do I get for Z? What is it? 17.1 or 17.2? Okay, I'll take that. So by using subtraction when I know the answers or using sine or tangent when I don't, that works out. Now, let's go over here to this one. On this case, what's the angle that I'm missing? 41. Very good. How am I going to find B? Tangent again. Tangent of 49 equals B over 9. Very good. And put it over 1. B equals 10.4. Okay. And do we agree or disagree with all that? Yeah? We got agreement? Okay. How do I find C? Well, I got adjacent. I want hypotenuse. That sounds like a cosine to me. Equals 9 over C. And so cross multiply. C equals 13.7-ish. Okay, there we go. Like it very much. What is it? That's what you got as well? Super. Yeah. Excellent. Now, because the history department would like me to share this with you, north is up. S would be south, and it's down. W is to the left, and E is to the right.
Never eat soggy waffles.
All right, never eat soggy whipples. All right, here we go. In this case, we're going to go from the dormitory to the library, and that's 80. Then we're going to turn north, and we're going to go to the rec center. We have this sidewalk here that's going to be new. I don't know the length, but it's at 56 degrees. Best bet here is what? Adjacent hypotenuse. Cosine of 56 equals 80 over hypotenuse. And you come up with hypotenuse is 143-ish. Would you be okay with 143-ish? All right. Now, let's move on down here. In this case, why would Pythagorean theorem be a perfectly fine way to go about this one? I know these sides for sure, so there's no chance of me missing it. So we got 64 equals 9 plus x squared, so I get 55 equals x squared, so I get x equals square root of 55. At this point, can I find sine, cosine, tangent, cotangent, secant, cosecant? Can I do that?
Yes.
Must have thetas. If you don't have thetas or x's or something behind it, it makes no darn sense. That's like saying square root equals square root of what? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have an extra one of these? Because my answers are wrong and I'm wrong.
Here you go. Now, so sine of, I don't have an extra first page.
That's fine.
Sine of this would be 3 over root 55. Cosine would be, wait a minute. No, I'm dumb. Opposite hypotenuse. 3 over 8. Cosine is square root of 55 over 8. Tangent is 3 over root 55. Cotangent is root 55 over 3. Secant is 8 over root 55. And cosecant is 8/3. Very good. There's page 1.
I have a question.
Yes.
What can you not have a square root in the bottom?
That's usually in all math classes, but we have suspended that particular rule because we're going to be using so many other things with square roots top and bottom. I don't want you to rationalize and make a mistake in this part before we even get to do the other things that we're going to do to it. So I want you to not rationalize until further notice. Okay, so with that, let's pick it up over here. I got 70 degrees. Now that's really inside. So how do I find the height that the ladder reaches up? Opposite, hypotenuse. Answer is sine of 70.1 equals hypotenuse over 30. Are we good there? Okay, hypotenuse equals 28.2 feet because we're in feet, so that makes sense. Now, how far is the ladder from the building? Well, what would we use now? Cosine of 70.1 equals x over 30. And so x equals, what is it? 10.2. Do we agree? And again, feet. Very good. Now, 250 degrees, so we take negative 250 times pi over 180. Boom, boom, shakalaka. Negative 25 pi over 18. Now, pause. We need to read the directions. Write each degree measure in radians as a multiple of pi and each radian in degrees. In this case, this is fine, but sometimes the directions say make sure it's written between, say, 0 and 360 or something like that. If you were to do that, you would need to add 360 and make it positive degrees first. Does that make sense? But in this case, we're fine to leave it here. I heard a question.
So, for the construction one, I did sine of 19.9 equals x over 30, and I still got the same answer. Is it okay to do that? Because like the other angle that.
Oh, yes, that's fine. You found this angle and did it.
Yeah.
Except that it should, yes, right. Yeah, that'd be fine. Okay. Yes, Pfeiffer.
What if it's way past negative 360?
If it's way past negative 360, then you just keep adding 360s till you get back into the right range. Okay. So, for example, 870, subtract 360. Subtract 360. I got to do it twice to get it back in range, right? Does that make sense? But in this case, I don't even necessarily care because I got to change it for pi over 180. Gone, gone. They both divide by 3. What's the answer?
29 pi over 6.
29 pi over 6. Now, if you reduced all this and came up with whatever this is, okay, and you got a little different radian because you found coterminal, okay, all right, but we weren't required to get it down into the 360. Okay. Now, 4 pi, so I got 4 pi times, now what are we going to multiply this one by? 180 over pi. Gone, gone. Answer is 720 degrees. Okay. And 3 pi over 16. Answer, well, I need times 180 over pi. Gone, gone. 4, 45. 135 over 4. You say, I don't like that. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with 135 over 4 degrees. Now, could you write it as 33.75? That one's generally fine because it's a nice even decimal, but be careful sometimes because if it's divided by 7 or something, that decimal goes on forever. So make sure that you leave fractions. Now, 28.955. Well, in this case, the 28 degrees we can just take right as it is. The 0.955, I'm going to multiply by 60 because there are 60 minutes in a degree, and I come up with 57.3. Do we agree? So that would be 57 whole minutes. How come I don't put the 0.3 here? I'm going to take that 0.3 and I'm going to multiply it by 60 again to get to seconds. And that's going to be, what, 18 if I'm not mistaken? I am not mistaken, and there you go. Now, if you had a decimal left when you got done with this, you would either just round it or put the decimal here. Now, in this case, the nice thing about this, guys, is this is super easy because all you got to do is take 28 over 60 plus 10 over 3,600. Like literally all you got to do is put the numbers in and you're ready to go, right? So if I do this, I'm going to get 32 plus some decimal plus some decimal. And when I put them all together, I get
32.4694 repeated.
There you go. All right. So there we go. And that, of course, is in degrees. Now it says find the length of the intersected arc. Length of the intersected arc. In this case, I have degrees. So I could do one of two things, angle over 360 to pi r, or I could do s equals r theta. This one's for degrees, this one's for radians. Well, since I have degrees, I could say 30 over 360 to pi 8. Are we good with that? And we say gone, 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 1 over 12, gone, gone, 6. And so I come up with
1.3 repeated.
right, 8 pi over 6, also known as 4 pi over 3 yards, or 1.3 repeating pi yards. Now, obviously, I like the fraction better, okay? Because there's no rounding in that. Now, on the other hand, if I wanted to, could I take 30 and find the radians? Pi over 6, do we agree? So we have S equals pi over 6 times 8. Answer is still 4 pi over 3. So you'll notice it comes out the exact same way. Yes, ma'am?
Can you just, that the one way we used the degree one, can you just do that again? Like, just,
Sure. 30 degrees goes in for the degree. I reduce 30 over 360. Okay, it's 1/12. And then I start reducing other bits and bobs until I get down to 8 pi over 6.
so the 2, is that a 600?
That's a 6 because I just reduced 1/12 to 6. If you'd like to see it more clearly, 1/12 times 2 pi 8, right? Can I divide this and this both by 4? So that gives me a 2 and a 3. Do you agree with that? Which gives us the 4 pi over 3. Now, area equals, since this is in radians, let's just use it, 1/2 r squared, what's 14 squared, times pi over 6. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's 196 pi over 12. Is that right? Which gives me what as a fraction? I believe it is 49 pi over 3. 49 pi over 3. Okay, also known as approximately 51 point something. What is it? Okay.
51.3.
There you go. And that would be in yards squared. All right, wind turbine. Here we go. 1 blade, 2 blades, 3 blades, and a stick. Okay, so the blade is 27.1 meters long, and it has 28.5 RPM. Do we agree? Yes.
Last one was in inches.
Inches squared. Good call. Now, in this case, I have 28.5 times 2 pi radians over 1 revolution. Do we agree? So I come up with 57 pi radians per minute. Okay, so that's going to be omega. Now, to get linear velocity, v equals omega r. So I simply take 57 pi times the radius, which is 27.1. Answer is, do we agree that it's 1544.7 pi meters per minute? Do we agree with that? Okay. And it is rounded to the nearest tenth. Yes.
Why don't you include all of the labels from 57 pi radian over minute in that equation?
Why would I not include the radians?
Yeah.
Because the radius is measured in meters. How is the radius measured? so many meters long. And so a radian is a length of radius.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Now, if you technically left the radians in here, you're not wrong. It's just redundant. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now, in this case, 2, 5. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here you go. These are the best problems in the world because they give you everything. Because this is how long? 2. This is -5. So can I find this pretty fast? Square root of 29, right? At this point, could you find all the 6 trig values? So sine theta equals -5 over root 29. Cosine theta equals 2 over root 29. Tangent theta equals -5 over 2. So therefore, cotangent theta, you'll notice I'm just going to work my way back because it's exactly the same stuff, right? Just flipped over. So that's how I always organize my work. You don't have to, but if it's helpful to you, great. You also notice I left the negative in the denominator. Again, not normally math acceptable, but it is in this class because it tells us what we need to know. Now, find the exact value of sine of 5 pi over 3. Well, where's 5 pi over 3? Which quadrant? Well, just in case you're not sure, could I say 180 over pi? Gone, 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 gone. 60, 300, right? Which quadrant? If that's 300, what's left? 60. So now I have -√3, +1, and 2. So the sign would therefore be -√3 over 2. Cosecant of 210, which quadrant?
3.
So if I have 210, what's the ratio? What's the reference? 30, -1, -√3. Why is these negative over here? They're going backwards and down. Why is the hypotenuse positive? Because it's always positive because of the Pythagorean theorem. Cosecant goes with sine, opposite of sine, -1. Okay. Why do I leave it 2 over -1? Well, just like if I have y equals mx plus b, and I say it has a slope of 3. A slope of 3 is really 3 over 1 because it's rise of 3, run of 1. Do we agree with that? In the same way, this gives us a little more information. If you put -2, are you fine? Yes. Okay, hypotenuse 1, opposite 1, adjacent 0. At this point, cosecant, again, here we go, 1 over 1, the answer is 1. Tan of 270, you get -1 for the opposite side, hypotenuse of 1, adjacent of 0, so tangent is opposite over adjacent, -1 over 0, which means undefined. No, I will come back to you in 1 second. Now, -90 goes down here, and that gives you opposite of -1, hypotenuse of 1, and adjacent of 0. So sine of -90 is -1 over 1, meaning -1. Either one of those is acceptable. Okay, those are the answers. Those are the how-tos. Make sure you have it ready for the test.